Bhgupati Prabhu, Shri Shrimad Divine Grace Setsi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON DVD Founder Charya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavajikacharya Stotra Sutta Shri Shrimad Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Gaura Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Jamunamai Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Maharani Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtana Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Shri Shri Guru. Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 2. We're going to do text 31 and 32 today, because 31 does not have a purport. So I'll chant 31 by myself, and we'll chant 32 together, since that's the one we're discussing mostly. Okay, so I'll chant this one by myself. Vipanan Vishapanena Nigrai. Right. Simon says, right? Okay. Yeah, exactly. Okay, Vipanan Vishapanena Nigriya Bhujagadhipam Utapya Padayayadgavas Tatoyam Prakriti Shtitam. Translation: the inhabitants of Vrindavan were perplexed by great difficulties because a certain portion of the Yamuna was poisoned by the chief of the reptiles, Kaliya. Period. The Lord chastised the snake king within the water and drove him away. And after coming out of the river, let me read that again. The Lord chastised the snake king within the water and drove him away. And after coming out of the river, he caused the cows to drink the water and proved that the water was again in its natural state. Okay, so 32, and we will chant this one together. Ayajayad Gosavena Goparajam Dvidotamai Vitasya Koro Badasya Chikirshan Sadvyayam Vibhu. Ayajayad Gosavena Ayajayad Gosavena Goparajam Dvijotamai Goparajam Vijotamai Vitasya Choru Bodasya Vitasya Choru Bodasya Chikirshan Sadvyayam Vibhu Chikirshan Sadvyayam Vibhu Ayajayad Gosavena Goparajam Dvijotamai Vitasya Choru Bodasya Chikirshan Sadvyayam Vibhu. I think I did it 3 times. Yeah, go ahead. Vaishnavis. Okay. Ayajayat, made to perform. Gosavena, by worship of the cows. Goparajam, the king of the cowherds. Dvija Uttamai, by the learned brahmanas. Vitasya, of the wealth. Cha, also. Udubarashya, great opulence. Chikirshan, desiring to act. Satvyayam, proper utilization. Vibhu, the great. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Okay. The Supreme Lord, Krishna, desired to utilize the opulent financial strength of Maharaj Nanda for worship of the cows. And also he wanted to give a lesson to King Indra, the king of heaven. Thus, he advised his father to perform worship of Go, or the pasturing land and the cows, with the help of learned brahmanas. Purport. Since he is the teacher of everyone, the Lord also taught his father, Nanda Maharaj. Nanda Maharaj was a well-to-do landholder and owner of many cows, and as was the custom, he used to perform yearly worship of King Indra, worship of Indra, the king of heaven, with great opulence. This worship of the demigods by the general populace is also advised in the Vedic literature, just so people can accept the superior power of the Lord. The demigods are servants of the Lord, deputed to look after the management of various activities of universal affairs. Therefore, it is advised in the Vedic scriptures that one should perform yagyas to appease the demigods. But one who is devoted to the Supreme Lord has no need to appease the demigods. Worship of the demigods by common people is an arrangement for acknowledging the supremacy of the Supreme Lord, but it is not necessary. Such appeasement is generally recommended for material gains only. As we have already discussed in the second canto of this literature, one who admits the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not need to worship the secondary demigods. Sometimes, being worshipped and adored by less intelligent living beings, the demigods become puffed up with power and forget the supremacy of the Lord. This happened when Lord Krishna was present in the universe, and thus the Lord wanted to give a lesson to the king of heaven, Indra. He therefore asked Maharaj Nanda to stop the sacrifice offered to Indra and to use the money properly by performing a ceremony worshipping the cows and pasturing ground on the hill of Govardhan. By this act, Lord Krishna taught human society, as he instructed in the Bhagavad Gita also, that one should worship the Supreme Lord by all acts and by all their results. That will bring about the desired success. The Vaishyas are specifically advised to give protection to the cows and their pasturing ground or agricultural land instead of squandering their hard-earned money. That will satisfy the Lord. The perfection of one's occupational duty, whether in the sphere of duty to oneself, one's community, or one's nation, is judged by the degree to which the Lord is satisfied. Om Gana Timadam Dasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshurdam Militamyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitamyena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dirati Swapadantikam. Could somebody grab a Bhagavad Gita, hardcover Bhagavad Gita from the shelf for me? Thanks. Okay. So, today is the appearance day of Advaita Acharya Jai. So I'm going to say something first about him and Advaita Acharya. Is Advaita Acharya's appearance day? And we're going to say something first about him, and then use and lead on from that into saying something about a little teeny something about the first shloka that we read that didn't have a purport, and then the one that we just all did together. So Advaitacharya, we learn from the very early parts of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, is one of the members of the Panchatattva, 5 members of the Panchatattva. 3 of those members, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, and Advaitacharya, are Vishnu Tattva. Gadadhar is Shakti Tattva, and Srivastaka is Jiva Tattva. So Advaitacharya is Vishnu Tattva. It means he's Vishnu. And we just heard yesterday, Prabhupada gave the lecture yesterday, and in the lecture Prabhupada said, he quoted from the Brahma Samhita, Deparcha evahi dasam, wait, it's just my tongue, sorry. I got it right, I'm reading it. Deparcha evahi dasantanam abupecha dipayate, just like you have got 1,000 candles here. So first you light 1 candle, then the second, the third, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, you go on increasing. So each candle is equal to another candle. So far candle power light is concerned, there is no difference. The first candle and the second candle, although the second candle is lit up from the first candle, but the power of the light is the same, either in the first candle or in the second candle. Similarly, do not think that because Krishna is the original candle and next candle is Balaram or Ram, that does not mean that Balaram or Ram is less powerful than Krishna. They are all equally powerful. And Prabhupada quotes the full thing, Diparcha evahi dasanturam abupecha dipayate nahitadag pritag asti heto. There is no difference. So we're just hearing, there's no difference. Advaitacharya, Lord Nityananda, Lord Chaitanya. So, okay. Now, but the interesting thing is, so Advaitacharya, he's Vishnu, sometimes I think he's called Sadashiva, but our first introduction to Advaitacharya, at least chronologically speaking, is that he's praying. We hear about how he's praying to Krishna to descend because he feels like the people are so fallen. You know, Navadvip, that's where he was living, used to be a center for great devotion. And then, yes, you know, like everything else in Kali Yuga, things deteriorated and it became a place for just dry logic and argument. You know, a lot of smartas, and so he felt very badly about that. It's not right, and he felt he wanted to change that. So he's praying for the descent. He's prayed to Krishna. So the question, one might ask the question: well, wait a second, he's Krishna. I mean, you know, you're not too far off Vishnu, Krishna. Prabhupada's saying right here. We just heard in yesterday's lecture that Krishna is the first candle. But all these other candles are equally powerful. So what is Advaitacharya doing, praying for why didn't he just do it himself? He's concerned about the fallen condition of the souls there in that particular place and in general. He's Vishnu. Why doesn't he just deliver him himself? Right? That's a sensible question, isn't it? Okay. Well, there's a sensible answer too. It's also explained that just like Lord Chaitanya when he came, with Krishna came as Lord Chaitanya, he's in the mood of Radharani, and you're supposed to respect that. You know, actually, devotees, there were some devotees, I think they're called Gauranga Nagari, say, we're trying to worship Lord Chaitanya as Krishna. And that was, that's, what's that verse by Rupa Goswami? But Shruti Smriti Purnanadi Panchadikim Vidivinam Ahaitaki Hare Bhakti Utpatyaiva Kalpate. That's considered a disturbance. That's you're not supposed to do that. They're one of the apasampradayas. So in the same way, Advaitacharya, he's Vishnu, he's Vishnu Tattva, but he's in the mood of a devotee. See, so in the mood of a devotee, he's feeling that I can't. This is beyond me. This is beyond me to help these people. This requires Krishna to come. You see, that's his humility. I mean, once again, he's in the role of a devotee. And when Krishna plays a role, he plays a role. I mean, Amla Bhakta Maharaj is familiar with different actors and things, but Krishna is the supreme actor. When Krishna role plays, he doesn't mess around. He doesn't just kind of So when Krishna comes as and he wants to as Lord Chaitanya, and he wants to experience the mood of Radharani, he does it first class. and all the different things he does, all his different roles he's playing in the different incarnations, he does it first class. So Advaita Acharya is really feeling like that. He's Vishnu, but he's really feeling it's beyond me to deliver these conditioned souls. This requires, this is the job for Lord Chaitanya. And Krishna and coming as Lord Chaitanya. So he prayed. It's described that two personalities were are responsible for the descent of Krishna as Lord Chaitanya. Advaita Acharya is one of them, Haridas Thakur the other. And specifically what Advaita Acharya did was he worshipped Shalagram Shila. He was worshiping it. He was a householder. He was actually a little bit older than Lord Chaitanya's father. So he was worshiping the Shalagram Shila, and he was simultaneously offering Ganges by worshiping Ganges, by offering Ganges water and offering Tulsi leaves. And I imagine chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, although I can't remember that being specifically stated. But that was his worship. And he was praying. He was praying, to Krishna, please come. You have to come, because only you can help this situation. And Krishna came. So he's given credit for that. So he's Vishnu Tattva, but he's in the mood of a devotee, similar to like the mood is similar to like the mood of like the personified Vedas. In the Krishna book, there's I'll just read a couple sentences here. It's actually the longest chapter in the Krishna book, the prayers of the personified Vedas. A lot of times devotees skip over it because they think it's very technical and all, but it's actually an incredible chapter. And in one place in that chapter, the personified Vedas, Shruti Ganas, they said, they're talking to Krishna, they were addressing Lord Vishnu actually. They say, "O unconquerable, you are the supreme personality. No one is equal to, greater than you. No one can be more glorious in his activities. All glory is unto you, all glory is unto you. By your own transcendental nature, you fully possess all six opulences. As such, you are able to deliver all conditioned souls from the clutches of Maya." So Advaita Acharya is feeling this way, in his mood of a Vaishnav. Okay, "O my Lord, O Lord, we fervently pray that you kindly do so." That's what he was doing. He was fervently praying. Fervently means like with a lot of feeling, with a lot of intensity, with a lot of sincerity, and continuously. That's what he was doing, and that devotional service was appreciated enough. Of course, it's a pastime, right? But that was what's mentioned as giving the reason why Lord Chaitanya came. Krishna came as Lord Chaitanya because of the prayers of Advaita Acharya and Haridas Thakur. So that's something about Advaita Acharya, and so both the Vaishnavas and the Supreme Lord, they're always desiring the welfare of the jivas, the living entities in general. And now today's first verse we heard, the inhabitants of Vrindavan were perplexed by the great difficulties because of a certain portion of the Yamuna was poisoned by the chief of the reptiles, Kaliya. The Lord chastised the snake king within the water and drove him away. And after coming out of the river, he caused the cows to drink the water and proved that the water was again in its natural state. So why did Krishna do that? Is it because Krishna is a great environmentalist, that he was really disturbed to hear that, this water is now poisoned, so, this is a great environmental offense? Well, yeah, Krishna is a great environmentalist, actually. He's the supreme environmentalist. He's responsible for the entire environment, but that wasn't exactly the reason why he did this. No, he was reciprocating with the devotees there. And a very important name for Krishna is Bhakta Vatsala. And Bhakta Vatsala means he's the lover of his devotees. See? So Krishna was acting here as Bhakta Vatsala. He's, there in Vrindavan, Govardhan, like that. And this Kaliya, mischievous chief of the reptile serpents, he's poisoning part of the Yamuna, which is, the devotees, the resident, they drink water there. The cows drink water from there. They're getting poisoned. They're getting dying, So they're going to Krishna with this problem, and Krishna solves the problem in his, amazing transcendental style. We all know that story. I'm not going to go into the pastime. But, so that's the reason. That's the reason why Krishna did that, why he drove him away and cause the cows to drink the water and prove that the water was again. He's acting as Bhakta Vatsala, lover of his devotees. So now today's verse, it says how the Supreme Lord Krishna desired to utilize the opulent financial strength of Maharaj Nanda for the worship of the cows. Okay. And also he wanted to give a lesson to Indra, the king of heaven. Thank you, by the way. Thank you. Thus he advised his father to perform worship of Go. That one word apparently means these two things, because Prabhupada says, or the pasturing land and the cows. So Go refers to the pasturing land and the cows. And we're going to come back to that later on, with the help of the learned Brahmins. So in the purport, Prabhupada says, since he is the teacher of everyone, the Lord also taught his father, Nanda Maharaj. So that's there. Now, that's something, his interesting thing could be said about that. So Nanda Maharaj is a Nityasiddha. So somebody could ask the question, well, wait a second, what is he? He doesn't need to learn anything. I mean, he doesn't need to be taught anything. He's a Nityasiddha. He's already an eternally liberated soul. But actually, in one sense, that's correct. But even in the spiritual world, the devotees are always learning. The devotees are always aspiring to increase and enhance and improve their service, right? So that's there. So that could be understood in that sense. But then there's another sense that it can be understood. Prabhupada says, I think it's someplace in the first canto, about how the mother teaches the daughter-in-law by teaching the daughter. See? So in other words, like say, your son gets married, okay, and he brings his wife back. So the mother his mother doesn't want to chastise or instruct the new wife. She's just new to the family. You want to treat her with kid gloves so she feels really loved and appreciated and welcome and everything. So if she's in the kitchen and she's doing something, doesn't know something or doing something wrong, so the mother will instruct her daughter, and the daughter-in-law is there, and she's smart enough, she gets it like that, and she doesn't feel directly corrected or instructed or like. See, so Krishna does that. Krishna instructs the world by instructing his devotees. And it's doubly beneficial. Krishna, like the Pandavas, would be an example of that. The Pandavas were put into great difficulties, one after another. And so Krishna was, instructing them. Once again, they're like Nanda Maharaj, they were also Nityasiddha devotees, but they benefited from that because you can always advance in devotional service. They rose to the occasion. The Pandavas rose to the occasion, and they made advancement in devotional service. And in the process of doing that, they simultaneously gave the whole world, not just at that time, but for time immemorial, great lessons in how to respond to those types of trials, tribulations, and tests, and in a devotional way, in a pure devotional way. So Krishna is teaching the whole world, all the conditioned souls, and by teaching his devotee. So that's also a part of what's going on here. And let's get the notes out. Oh yeah, and another thing that's important here. Well, it says here this worship of the demigods by the general populace is also advised in the Vedic literature, just so people can accept the superior power of the Lord. So that's also an important point. Krishna is trying to always benefit every living entity. We learn from hearing in Prabhupada's lectures and different places in the book, Eko Bahusham. Krishna's one, he expands himself into many. The Vibhinamsas, that's the jivas, we're expansions of Krishna. I've heard Prabhupada say that in lectures. We're also expansions of Krishna, the Vibhinamsas, the jivas. And he does that because he wants to experience reciprocal loving relationships with the jivas, with the parts and parcels. Krishna takes pleasure. Krishna is like, it's hard for us to imagine. He's supremely benevolent. He takes pleasure in seeing other people happy. He takes pleasure in seeing his parts and parcels happy. So Krishna's always meditating. He's always, even a super soul here in the material world. There's that one paragraph in the 8th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam where it says, only Krishna can deliver us from this material existence. Indeed, he is always trying to do so. Even before we offer our prayers to him, he's constantly trying to deliver us. He's never lazy in regard to our deliverance, like that. So he's the ever well-wisher. So the point is that Krishna's always trying to create. I mean, just the fact that we exist in the first place, that's his mercy, that's his kindness, that's his love, an expression of his love and his compassion, all those good things. And then beyond that, he's always trying to create a path upwards. Krishna's always trying to give people a path upwards. So getting back to this particular sentence here, it says, the worship of the demigods by the general populace is also advised in the Vedic literature, just so people can accept the superior power of the Lord. It's not like it's necessary, as Prabhupada himself says in a few sentences coming up. He says, actually, worship of the demigods by common people is an arrangement for acknowledging the supremacy of the Supreme Lord, but it is not necessary. Almost sounds like a contradiction. Well, I mean, if it's an arrangement for acknowledging the supremacy of the Lord, why? Because it's indirect. So the point is that it's Krishna's. It's just an expression. It's just another aspect of Krishna's mercy and his compassion. He's trying to give all living entities a path upwards. Not all the conditioned souls in this material world are ready for devotional service. It would be nice if they were, but they're not. You see? So Krishna doesn't say, like in the Bhagavad Gita in the 12th chapter, Krishna says, just fix your mind upon me without deviation. And if you can't do that, go to hell. No, he doesn't say that. No, he doesn't say that. He says if you can't do that, follow the regulative principles for devotional service. And if you can't do that, work and offer the results of your activities to serve me. And if you can't do that, well, work and offer the results of your activities to help some good cause. You see, he's always offering a path upwards. Why? Because he loves. Mamai vamso jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana. He loves the part and parcels, living entities. There is eternal fragmental parts and parcels. He loves all the jivas, and he wants to see them benefit. But, not at a gunpoint, not twisting their arm. They have to have free will, but he's always offering that. So this is an example of that. Demigod worship is a path upwards for people who aren't yet ready to take directly to devotional service. And there's a whole bunch of verses to support that point in the Bhagavad Gita as well. Actually, I don't think I need to quote him. But in chapter 7, there's it starts off with how's it go? Kamais tais tai rita gyana papajanta and those who've lost their intelligence, those who are influenced by material desires. How's it go? They lost their intelligence and they worship the demigods, but actually. Yeah, that's the gist of it. Krishna's pointing out in those verses. That's another one, yeah. Yanti deva, Pratan deva, Pitrin yanti patir vataha, Bhutani yanti. No, that's a different verse. Anyway, I'm not going to try to go into Sanskrit. But the point is that Krishna's acknowledging that, yeah, it's good. This is better than nothing. Worshipping the demigods, if you're not ready to do devotional service, yeah, worship the demigods. Because as it says here, you're acknowledging the supremacy of the Lord. But better... And just worship me directly, right? And that's what Krishna's teaching Nanda Maharaj here, and that's what Krishna's teaching the whole world, through that pastime. That no need to worship the demigods, just worship me directly. So that's a point that's being made here. So it says, the demigods are servants of the Lord, deputed to look after the management of various activities of universal affairs. Therefore, it is advised in the Vedic scriptures that one should perform yajnas to appease the demigods. But one who is devoted to the Supreme Lord has no need to appease the demigods. So that's very reminiscent. Yeah, that's very reminiscent, and we find that stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Well, actually, it's really a verse from the 11th canto, 5th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's a verse that directly supports that, or that point is a paraphrase of. It goes, Devarshi bhutapta nirnam pitrinam Nakinkano Nayam Rene Chirajan Sarvatmana Ya Sadanam Sadanyam Gato Mukundam Pariritya Kartum. That anyone who is completely surrendered unto Krishna, Mukunda, giving up all other duties, as mentioned here, as Prabhupada says, is no longer a debtor, nor is he obliged to anyone, not the demigods, who we're talking about in this particular paragraph purport today, nor the sages, nor the people in general, nor kinsmen, nor humanity, nor forefathers. So if you're fully surrendered to Krishna, you're not indebted to anybody else. It means you don't need to worship anybody else. If you're worshiping Krishna, you're covered. Just like Prabhupada would give the example sometimes, when you water the roots of the tree, all the leaves and branches are taken care of. If you feed the stomach, the entire body gets the energy. So it's kind of like that. So when somebody's on that platform, no need for the demigod worship. If somebody's not on that platform, it's certainly better than nothing. Watering the leaves is better than not watering the plant at all, because some of the water is going to get down there to the roots anyway. You see? Like that. Then it goes on to say, it makes this point about sometimes being worshipped and adored by less intelligent living beings, the demigods become puffed up with power and forget the supremacy of the Lord. This happened when Lord Krishna was present in the universe, and thus the Lord wanted to give a lesson to King Indra, the king of heaven, Indra. So that's the classic example of that. The classic example, Indra's, that whole pastime with Indra, that's the classic example of a demigod, as Prabhupada says here, because of being adored by less intelligent living beings, becoming puffed up with his power, and forgetting the supremacy of the Lord. We're dealing with the classic example here. But but the point that's being made here that happens is that's supported elsewhere in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says in the 10th chapter, text number 2, I believe it is. Let me just see if I can quickly get it. Yeah. Name vidu surdagana prabhavam namaharshaya. Krishna says, neither the host of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences. For in every respect I am the source of the demigods and the sages. So they don't know. These demigods, that's true. They're special. They're jivas, except for the sun god, Surya Narayan, who's actually an incarnation of Krishna. But so in general, though, they're jivas. But they get puffed up. Elsewhere in the first chapter, text 1, Krishna's Vyasadeva there is speaking. He says, "Muyanti yatsuraya." Even the great sages and demigods, they don't know about me. They fall into illusion. They can become bewildered. So here's the classic example, Indra. So we have to. So if that could happen to these great demigods who are, pretty elevated, it could easily happen to us. So I guess a lesson there is, be careful. Pride come before a fall. We have to, if Indra could get puffed up, if Lord Brahma didn't actually get puffed up, but Indra certainly did. It could easily happen to us, so we have to be on guard against that. Then he goes on here to say, and this is an interesting point coming up. He says, so this happened when Lord Krishna was present in the universe, and thus the Lord wanted to give a lesson to the king of heaven, Indra. He therefore asked Maharaj Nanda to stop the sacrifice offered to Indra and to use the money properly by performing a ceremony worshipping the cows and the pasturing ground on the hill of Govardhan. And so that's what he asked him to do, to perform a ceremony worshipping the cows and the pasturing ground on the hill of Govardhan. Now Prabhupada goes on to say, by this act, Lord Krishna taught human society that one should worship the Supreme Lord by all acts and by all their results. So wait a second. What does one have to do with the other? What does worshiping the cows and the pasturing ground on the hill of Govardhan have to do with worshiping the Supreme Lord by all acts and by all the results? Right? Did everybody get that? I'll read it again. It says, he asked Nanda Maharaj to stop the sacrifice offered to Indra and use the money properly by performing a ceremony worshipping the cows and pasturing ground on the hill of Govardhan. But then Prabhupada says in the next sentence, by this act, Lord Krishna taught human society that one should worship the Supreme Lord by all acts and by all results. So can any uninitiated devotee give us the answer to that question? Uninitiated devotee. Everybody understands the question, right? The question's clear? Okay. So any initiated devotee, first initiated devotee, just first initiated devotee, can any first initiated devotee answer that question? Okay. The question is, what's the relationship? It's saying here that, Lord Krishna, he stopped Nanda Maharaj from forming the sacrifice, and he told them to properly utilize the money by performing a ceremony, worshipping the cows in the pasturing ground. Then in the next sentence, Prabhupada's saying that by this act, Lord Krishna taught human society that one should worship the Supreme Lord by all acts and by the results. So how is performing a ceremony, using the money to perform a ceremony to worship the cows and the pasturing grounds in Govardhan Hill, how is that worshiping the Supreme Lord? Okay, second initiated devotee, but not Prabhupada disciple. Okay, go ahead. Well, okay. Anybody want to? Okay, go ahead. Okay, I will accept that as a correct answer. Can anybody take it a step further? Dear Alita. Speak it loud, loud, loud. I couldn't hear you. All right, I couldn't hear you. It's not your fault. It's the acoustics in here are bad, and you need the microphone. Yeah. So you want to add, Trini? Okay. Go ahead, say it again, nice and loud. Yeah. So he gets the burfi. Govardhan Hill is non-different from Krishna. Okay, so now I'm going to read you from the Krishna book to the answer to that question, the authoritative, completely accurate answer to that question. So this is from the chapter Worshipping Govardhan Hill. And Prabhupada says, in part of his purport there, he says, Lord Chaitanya has recommended that since Krishna is worshipable, so his land, Vrindavan, and Govardhan Hill is also worshipable. To confirm this statement, Lord Krishna said that Govardhan Puja is as good as worship of him. So Krishna directly stated it, and that's the general understanding, that worship of the land, and such as Vrindavan and Govardhan Hills, is also worshipable. It's accepted as non-different from Krishna. It's coming up. It's coming up. From that day, Govardhan Puja has been going on, and it is known as the Annakuta ceremony. And now another paragraph says, when everything was complete, this is after the residents of Vrindavan, led by Nanda Maharaj, performed the ceremony. It says here, Krishna assumed a great transcendental form and declared to the inhabitants of Vrindavan that he was himself Govardhan Hill, in order to convince the devotees that Govardhan Hill and Krishna himself are identical. Then Krishna began to eat all the food offered there. The identity of Krishna and Govardhan Hill is still honored, and great devotees take rocks from Govardhan Hill and worship them exactly as they worship the deity of Krishna in the temples. The followers of the Krishna conscious movement may therefore collect small rocks or pebbles from Govardhan Hill and worship them at home, because this worship is as good as deity worship. So basically, at least for the purposes of the class, the reason why Krishna's instructing the residents of Vrindavan to worship the cows and the pasturing grounds of Govardhan is because they're non-different from him. And that is a form of worshiping the Supreme Lord. But I think I'm just about finished, so I'll finish up and then we'll take questions. Yeah, and then the last point that's being made here in the Prabhupada's purport is that the Vaishyas are specifically advised to give protection to the cows and their pasturing ground or agricultural land instead of squandering their hard-earned money. And when I read that sentence, it just kind of went, because it's just so far from that, what's going on today. You know, this is what Vaishyas. Vaishyas doesn't just mean people taking care of cows. Vaishyas are bankers, commerce, mercantile men, money. You see, being a Vaishya is essentially all about, trade, commerce, making it happen, right? Sudras are the laborers, manual labor. Kshatriyas are administrators, and Brahmins are the intellectual, spiritual guides. So that community, the Vaishya community, is supposed to, their first and foremost duty is they're supposed to protect the cows. They're supposed to protect the pasturing grounds. And they're doing so far, from that in this day and age. It's really sad, what the Vaishya community is degenerated to. So that was just a reflection on that particular sentence. And then it goes on here to say that the perfection of one's occupational duty, whether in this sphere of duty to oneself, one's community, one's nation, is judged by the degree to which the Lord is satisfied. Well, I'll leave that as self-explanatory. Okay, so does anybody have any questions? To start off with questions. Rabindranath Prabhu. Microphone, please. Microphone, please. No mic, okay. So, should we pass this around? Yeah, right. 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. But generally, pride is a quality that's experienced when somebody's being influenced by the mode of passion. And, if somebody's absorbed in the modes of passion and ignorance, that's going to lead to problems. That's not those are not elevating modes of material nature. The mode of goodness, Prabhupada explains in the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the mode of goodness is elevating, and then of course one has to go beyond that. But if you're being motivated by false pride, like that, which is an expression of the false ego, especially when you're in the association of the devotees, it's gonna cause problems at some point. So off the top of my head, that's how I would say it. It's an expression of the mode of passion, and the mode of passion doesn't elevate one. It's something you have to become free from. Confirmed. So it's probably a better, fuller answer, but anyway. Next question. Yeah. Okay. Can we just, any other question before comments? Okay, good. You want that mic? We'll give you a microphone.
There are many people who are listening and they want to hear. No, I don't. What I wanted to mention as you were speaking, you were differentiating Brahmins and Kshatriyas and Vaishyas and Shudras, but Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita takes us beyond that. He says, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, whatever you give away, you do it for me. That takes away the whole caste idea. And all it does is it makes you a devotee of Krishna. And being a devotee of Krishna, a loving devotee of Krishna, you get the blessings of Krishna. You go above the caste system. You don't, if you stay in the caste system, I'm a Brahmin, I'm a Kshatriya, that's a designated consciousness. But when you say, I am simply the loving, surrendered servant of Krishna, that's a whole different idea. And it's what we call a devotee. So no one should just, yes, we can take Brahman initiation, that's fine. But we have to go beyond thinking I'm a Brahmin. We should always be thinking I'm a simple, loving devotee, surrendered to Krishna. Whatever he wants, whatever he asks, that's what I do. I have no personalism. My personalism is what Krishna wants. It's his personalism, and that's all. So we have to think of ourselves not in terms of just what we call designations. If you do, then you're still locked into materialistic consciousness. And I do agree that it's a stage which leads you from one to another, as you were nicely saying at the beginning of your class, but we have to go beyond the designated consciousness, and Prabhupada hammers us on that before. What am I? Just a simple, good-for-nothing devotee of Krishna. And whatever he wants, as he says, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, whatever you give away, you do it for me. Not for yourself, not for your ego, not for your wife, not for your child. You do it for me. And if you do it for me, you become like me in every way as a pure devotee of the Lord who thinks Krishna consciousness.